God, if you're listening.
God, if you're there.
No licks for Durden.
No licks at all. No licks.
Put a towel in his mouth. No licking.
What's that?
Dustin.
Meet yourself.
Lord.
Let me go ahead and note this down. That time mark, that'll be the opening to the podcast this week.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, a.k.a. P-Dub, in the house. So we're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. SSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day. We are starting off with laughs and happiness here on the show on this wonderful Wednesday. Going to be one of our last Wednesdays on the show because basketball season is coming up, and Austin has told us and put a gun to our head that we have to start recording on Thursday nights. So no comment there on that. But
starting next Thursday.
Yep, so next Thursday. We'll be going back to Thursdays like we did in the offseason. I can't wait.
Thursday night. So we are going to be moving the show time a little bit earlier. We're still don't have a confirmed time for that, but
I'll be here on Wednesdays.
Yeah, Nate's going to be here by himself on Wednesdays talking to himself, which he can do really well, I've learned. But, yeah, thanks, guys, for tuning in with us. There's a lot of news to go over tonight. We'll also be going over the 2021-2022 FSU basketball season preview with Austin, of course, with us. And then also we'll be joined by Arya Masudi along with Adrian Crawford. We'll be having them at 9:30, so in about an hour from here. So we've got a lot of quick hitters to go through with me this evening. We got Dustin Lewis, our lead writer and editor at NoelGameDay.com, along with Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer, and Nate Greer, who said that it's been a crazy day for Florida State. It has been a wild one, gentlemen. It's been one of those crazy ones, but we're here. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk Clemson final thoughts. We'll talk Chubba Purdy entering the transfer portal, practice observations from this week. AJ Duffy, latest there. Jameis Winston, PJ Williams, Cam Akers, some NFL notable stories to talk about, along with Buster Posey just broke earlier this evening that he plans on retiring, and we'll go into the NC State game and preview that along with giving score predictions. And then for the rest of the podcast, we're going to talk basketball and get ready for the season ahead. So I'm excited. Before we get started, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, subscribe there so you'll be notified every time we go live. But we've only got an hour to go through quick hitters and preview this NC State game. So let's get rolling right off the bat with first, let's give last final thoughts on FSU versus Clemson. I don't know, Nate, you kind of go and look at these games a lot and you write a few pieces recapping these. And I know you have your top 5 plays that changed the game, but man, now looking back at this game and having a little bit more time, because I know we talked about the instant reaction. I mean, Florida State was so close at leaving Death Valley with the win last Saturday.
Yeah, they were. No, if you really watch it and pay attention, though, they were very close to a 10-point win. I say that that's realistic. They got shut down in the run game, but there were still a lot of open things there. I know that people have been really harping on Norvell and harping on Dillingham, but I thought they called a really good game offensively. It just came down to lack of execution and the situational bad penalties that just shot them in the foot. I think the defense overall played pretty well. I think they played well enough for Florida State to win. There's no moral victories, and I'm not taking a moral victory out of that game. But Florida State lost that game because of FSU. It's a bitter pill to swallow, as a player that you left 10 to 14 points out there on the field, which would have been a nice W for this team, and a fourth straight win to get to 4-4 and make a bowl, a really legitimate possibility. Now they're at probably like a 30-40% possibility. So tough game. I think that Clemson maybe found a little bit with Shipley. He's healthy now. I'm not too upset with the game. I'm pretty disappointed overall with the execution on the offensive line. They definitely got their tails kicked, which is going to be something I'm going to talk about with NC State. It's another really stout front line. They're number 7 in the country against the run. So here again lies a game for FSU that they have to, probably going to have to throw the ball better than they have in order to win this game. So, my final thought is that Florida State's still in the right direction. It's again, they should have won, and I still think they have confidence. I don't think it's necessarily a confidence killer. I just think that maybe it's motivation that, hey, we lost this one, we lost it close, and we could have had this. So let's bounce back and move forward to next week.
Yeah, I don't know if it's as much as they should have won or as if they could have won.
They should have won.
I can't go that far, just because when you have 9 penalties,
go with it, Austin.
Not all of them. When you have 9 penalties, even if we don't agree with all of them, and Clemson has 6 penalties, but they're only for 25 yards, like that's the tough part. When you can't get the run game going, and that's what Florida State is. They're a run first team. When you can't get that going, I'm not going to expect them to win, and I certainly don't expect them to win when you'll have 100 yards of offense in the second half. It did come down to execution. Guys weren't making plays, and a little bit of it was Travis was just dancing around too much instead of trying to get the ball out quick. But I agree with you that I thought the coaches called a pretty good game offensively. It's just they weren't making the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Also wanted to know if they were open. I mean,
they were. The Florida State wide receivers were open more than you think. If you rewatch the game, you can't really tell because of the view sucks, but Florida State had guys open. The offensive line let them down. They played I think they played the worst game of the season.
By far.
Some of that was on Clemson, but I think some of that too was on the offensive line with, they pissed on their leg a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line got whipped. I felt like just about every running play, the running backs were getting hit in the backfield right after the snap, and you guys mentioned it. I mean, the pre-snap penalties that put Florida State behind the chains, and over the 3-game winning streak, Florida State really established its running game, showed that that's the backbone of this offense. And when you shut that down, I mean, there's just not a whole lot to work with through the air, especially if you're not hitting those deep shots, which Travis obviously came up just a little bit long on that one throw to Keyshawn Helton that probably should have been a touchdown. And
oh yeah.
Like I said, with the running game getting shut down, Florida State, they just couldn't put together consistent drives.
No, they had big time
we talked about that. We talked about that in the preview. Florida State had to hit those chunk plays, and how different is the game if they hit that? How different is it if Helton catches that third down when they were driving? How different is it if
I still think that throw was on Travis. Yes, you should have caught it,
for sure.
You got to put it in stride.
It was, but it hit his hands. You still got to catch it. Players got to make plays. Players got to make plays, and not everything's gonna be perfect. Yeah, I'm not a Travis defender. You and I know are on the same page with that. But you got to pull that in. But
no, I'm not disagreeing. But you also got to, if you put that in stride, he's getting 15 yards instead of 6. It was just
for sure. Yep. How different is it if Treshaun Ward doesn't fumble after the turnover? With great field position. So, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Now moving on to NC State.
Yeah, no, had potential there and had opportunities, but just really ugly for Florida State penalty wise. I mean, I think that was just terrible things. And there was some some calls that were definitely controversial, but I mean, overall, there's still mistakes being made where you're ruining drives. I mean, they've been doing so well at sustaining those drives, and once again, they go back to their bad habits, and that's another reason why
penalties.
Mike Norvell has said there's a lot of growth that still has to go on, and they're not ready for these big games. We wrote multiple articles recapping it, but one of them being, they're just not ready for these big, be on the spotlight like this and get away and big moments with wins and these games. So still a lot of work to be done.
Takeaway is that it's the first, rivalry game that Florida State's looked competitive in how long. So, they didn't go out and lay down and get their asses kicked. They fought, and it's not a great Clemson team, but still, they went out there and they competed the entire game. They had a chance to win on last possession.
Yeah, coming into the season, if you tell every Florida State fan, hey, you're gonna have the ball down 4 at Clemson with a minute left, I think everybody takes that because this is what we're.
I'm not counting the last score. I'm not counting.
I'm not either. I'm not either.
That was 24-20.
It was a 24-20 game, and it was the baddest bad beat of all time. Anybody that Florida State plus 9.5 was kicking themselves.
Oh, they're so mad.
I think they did worse than that.
I think Dave Portnoy had 100K on that.
Yeah, how many people broke something when that happened?
The bettors, most certainly.
I was so mad.
Yeah,
that's why I don't. That's why I don't gamble
on the ball.
That's why I don't either.
That's why I don't gamble. Because I
still don't understand Parchment pitching it back in the first place. You're at the 40 with 2 blockers. Go upfield. But whatever.
Yeah.
No comment.
We move on coverage wise, and we get prep for NC State later in the show. We will be giving score predictions and previewing that game too. So we'll get to that. Let's get into the big one from the day. Breaking news this early afternoon. Quarterback Chubba Purdy has plans on entering the transfer portal, and he is going to be leaving Florida State. Kind of comes out of nowhere. Didn't get to see him at practice both days this week, and it kind of makes sense there. There's a bug going around right now, with the flu and around campus, and thought maybe that might have been why we didn't see number 12 out there this week at practices. But nope, Chubba Purdy actually has entered the transfer portal and is going to be moving on from Mike Norvell and staff. What are y'all's first thoughts on that? And then I'll get to the message part that he put out.
For me, it's just wow. I mean, completely unexpected from my point of view, because looking at the quarterback situation going into 2022, it really looked like it would be Jordan Travis, Purdy, and AJ Duffy competing for that starting job. And, we were all kind of hoping year 3, Purdy would finally be able to take those steps and become the quarterback of the future, like a lot of us thought he would be when he signed with Florida State in December 2019. And obviously he's went through a lot with the injuries, but I don't know. I thought it was a little early for him to decide to dip out without really getting a fair shot and having a full off season going through everything.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. I mean, we all expected him to be able to battle for QB1 next year, and now he doesn't even want to be a part of it. I was pretty surprised because especially the flashes he showed this year, they looked really good. He had a weird offseason where we weren't quite sure where his mind was, how the shoulder was. Comes back to campus, looks great, and everyone's like, okay. We let him sit behind Milton, who's been there, done that, get another year in the system, and then for 2022, he has a good chance to be QB1, but it's a tough blow. Now you pretty much have to get another transfer quarterback this offseason, whether it's, I forget their names, but the quarterback at UCF who's good friends with Milton, the quarterback at Tennessee. Like, there's going to be names out there, but it's tough. I was really looking forward to seeing Chubba play next year.
For me,
yeah. You're close with him on during his recruitment.
Yeah, and we stayed in touch with him, through Unconquered Talk. We had him on the podcast. I've stayed in touch with him here and there, through his time at Florida State. And at the end of the day, I'm not surprised that it happened. I'm surprised at the timing itself, though. And I know, when I put it out on Twitter, I think everyone's forward thinking it's a good thing. Florida State's fan base is like divided. You still have the people that still wish for Jeff Sims, which I don't understand, and then you had the people that were pro Purdy, And for me, I look at it as this. Florida State picked him to be the quarterback. Norvell specifically went after him. He had the injury. As Dustin said, if that shoulder injury doesn't happen, he starts last year, and I agree with that comment. Is what happens going up to this year? Is he the starter? You can't say no to that. He had a really good chance to start multiple games as a freshman, but for the injury, the bad timing, and some stuff off the field, not going to really get into here. He had to deal with some stuff. That he lost some focus. Went and had to have another surgery on the shoulder. Went home. Did some rehab. Got his mind right and came back. By all reports, he's not. He's a freshman, y'all. Come on. He's really 2 years in the system, and I think some people have some unreal expectations, and everyone wants to have an opinion on what a quarterback is, and he's from Arizona, so he's not good. I don't understand some of the Florida State fans thinking, and I know it's the nature of the game now. Quarterbacks aren't going to stay. You look at Georgia; they have 4 guys now. I think there's going to be some turnover there. You look at Bama, Ohio State, LSU. Every program is having it. But for Florida State, for me, my opinion is that, I don't like it because I think you need some continuity at that position. So you look at next year, you go into spring with 3 scholarship quarterbacks. Yet Travis, you got Tate Rodemaker, and then you have AJ Duffy, who's going to enroll early. So what does that look like? They're going to have to go to the portal, in my opinion. I know, another website put out that they don't think that Florida State is going to go to the portal. I kind of disagree with that. I think they're going to have to. You can't go into a season with 3 quarterbacks. It doesn't matter what you have walk-on wise. I know they're talking to Castellanos. Maybe they're talking to him as a quarterback, so maybe that interest has peaked there. But I just don't. I don't like it because I don't like the lack of continuity there. So now you're going to have to bring another guy that hasn't been in the system, a guy who's new to the system. And I thought that Chubba had a future here, just because of, his athleticism. He can throw the ball. Knowing some people and having some relationships with people that are in the program. They liked what they saw from him. This season in practice and everything. So. My opinion that it is a loss. I know, he's not, hasn't been a world beater, but he's still young. But, he's made the decision to pursue other options, pursue a chance to play more, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and like you said,
Hold on, one more thing, sorry. And then you look at what Florida State may face this weekend with Travis possibly being sick. So what does that look like for this week? That hurts. That hurts when Milton hasn't necessarily been that great. The story is great, but his play hasn't been great. Tate Rodemaker, it's been Tate Rodemaker, not really ready for extended playing time. So, that puts FSU in a bind now. So I'm not digging it.
Yeah, and like you said, Nate, definitely a depth problem at quarterback now with only 3 scholarship signal callers going into the offseason. Obviously, Travis has some experience, but then you've got a guy in Tate Rodemaker who hasn't played a ton in his time in Tallahassee. AJ Duffy will obviously be coming in as a true freshman early enrollee, so that doesn't make me necessarily comfortable approaching fall of 2022 with 3 scholarship quarterbacks. One of them being Jordan Travis, who, with his style of play, obviously has a propensity to take some hits, get banged up a little bit. So I agree. Florida State, they're definitely going to need to at least evaluate the transfer market. And if there's an option that fits, why not? Miles Brennan from LSU recently entered the portal. Harrison Bailey from Tennessee. We actually heard today from a source that Florida State has at least kicked the tires on Harrison Bailey. So we'll see if that leads into anything more moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Chubba Purdy wrote in a message to FSU fans saying, "I want to thank the Seminole fans and Florida State community for all their support during my time at Florida State. After careful consideration and discussion with my family, I'll be moving on towards new beginnings. With that said, I will be entering the transfer portal. Thank you, and God bless. It seemed kind of something just real quick, had to get it out there kind of dealio. Usually, if things are on both sides, are connected well, and everything's fine on both ends, there's usually a graphic made and something more formal than that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there were a couple people, on the team that were surprised. I didn't even know about it. So I think this caught some people by surprise. Not, like I said, not necessarily the fact that he's leaving, but maybe the timing in of itself. So, yeah,
it's definitely a little odd. The timing is way off than what we might have expected. Right now, you're going into this Saturday. We'll see on, fully potential wise of your quarterback room, but you've got Milton now along with Tate Rodemaker and Jordan Travis, who, sometimes throughout his years career-wise, he gets dinged up here and there, and you just don't know his availability-wise throughout the season. So, the quarterback room right now just got really thin. And, looking at practices, he was splitting a lot of the QB2 reps with Milton. He was getting a ton of reps, and I thought he was really engaged. He was listening. He played very well the last few weeks. I thought he's played really well. And along with the UMass game, he was, that's UMass. That's not a really good team, but still, I thought he looked a lot more confident than he first did last year. So it's definitely just such a little tricky situation. We'll see if we hear more. It's not even, it's just been a few hours, but if we hear anything more, make sure you guys stay tuned to NoGameDay.com. Let's jump into don't need to jump too much into this craziness of practice observations, but like Norvell had mentioned, a lot of players out this week dealing with the bug. We'll see how that affects Saturday, but a few players had mentioned that I thought had a pretty good week. Jordan Wilson had a phenomenal day, making grabs. I thought his route running was a lot more faster than his past practices. I think he saw this past Saturday on how he was being used and thinks that he can maybe up that more and get some more opportunities for later in the season. So I thought he had a great week of practice, and Jermaine Johnson is just Jermaine Johnson, and he continues just to kind of make things look silly. I think he had a pick 6 today in practice, and I think 3 sacks. So just Jermaine Johnson and just being Jermaine Johnson. But nothing too crazy notable out of practice, just some guys dinged up from Clemson and this bug going around. And it's going to be interesting to see, now it's going to be worth it to get into that press box early on Saturday, Dustin. Luckily, you won't be there, but we're gonna have to get in there quite early to see who's available. now, I actually have to get in there early and see what's going on. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that on Saturday. So nothing too crazy to note out of practice. Let's talk about this AJ Duffy situation. What is happening here? I mean, it's just quarterback craziness right now. But current 2022 commit, AJ Duffy drama.
We'll let Dustin Max forward it because he thinks he knows everything about the situation. So you go first.
Yeah. I don't think I know everything about the situation, but I'll talk about it first. I did get a text from a source yesterday, and I didn't necessarily wanted to put it out until I kind of heard some more. And, obviously stuff started brewing earlier this afternoon. But FSU quarterback commit AJ Duffy apparently has left IMG Academy with, I think, 2 games left in the season. And at least from my source, they said that he was struggling a little bit with the IMG offense, not playing as well. And he only completed 3 passes on Friday night in a close victory. Didn't talk to reporters afterwards. So that's what I have from my side. Nate doesn't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I think it's a little reckless, in my opinion. I don't know how a team that is putting up 40 multiple games, lowest score is 24 points, struggles. I don't get it. And I know they've gone slightly, towards the run. I would too with Allen and Stacey Gage. I get it.
Yeah, they've got dogs there. Yeah.
I don't really. I don't agree with it. For an offense to put that many points, the quarterback has to play above average or has to do more than just struggling with the offense. I don't buy it. I just disagree with it. I know that Duffy sat out last year. You guys have to understand too, it's a new offense. It's also
new offense, new state,
a new head coach. It's a new head coach with a different game plan. I think he's more old school than what he likes to do. So, everyone needs to relax, man. That's why my name is Everyone Freak Out. Everyone just needs to relax and let things play out, man. Like, and I get it, and I said it, and people like jumped on my throat. Not everyone goes to IMG and has a lot of success. Sometimes you just tread water and you make it through. Now, I've been in and around that program off and on for 7 years, so I've got stories on a lot of guys who've gone there. I was one of the ones that thought McClain was going to struggle just based off of what his time was at IMG, but he's been a completely opposite of what people expected. I know he's a receiver, whatever. My point is that you can't really take it, as 100% truth if someone says that A, B, C is struggling, or this person has not been good. My opinion is that someone or a team that puts up the points they are, the quarterback isn't struggling. Maybe he's struggling with other things, but on the field, it's just first. It's like a damn all-star team, y'all. How often do these guys play together? Where's the continuity? I know that's a word that I've said a couple times today, but you get a fall camp and you get practice. A lot of these kids are going to IMG on a 1-year deal, trying to get recognition and trying to get exposure, after playing 3 years at another school. So let's take some things into consideration
as well.
Yep. Who's struggled mightily this year at IMG. So let's just all relax a little bit and let things run its course.
And I will say, at least from another website's perspective, it's been reported that Duffy is dealing with some sort of hand injury.
Yeah, another injury.
But I haven't heard that from my side as of yet.
Yeah, which is still another injury back-to-back years. So I get it, Everyone needs
definitely
to relax,
an interesting.
And who knows? I mean, if he has been dealing with a hand injury, that could explain a little bit of why his performance has been affected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not for nothing. If he wants to go focus on getting at Florida State early, I'm all about it. Florida State needs that guy. So, they need him in spring. Or else, you're looking at two guys in spring, two scholarship quarterbacks in spring. So, whatever gets him at Florida State healthy and ready, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. And you're seeing it with another Florida State commitment, defensive tackle Bishop Thomas, who obviously pledged to Florida State over the summer, and then he elected to sit out his senior season to kind of rest up, focus on academics, and be fully healthy upon arriving at Florida State. So, and Travis Hunter obviously got dinged up earlier this season. We'll see if he returns anymore his senior year. Yeah, I was going to speak about Hill. Hill told me, I think it was over the weekend, that he was back practicing at least. I don't know if he plans to play in another game, but it sounds like that recovery is going pretty well.
Something to keep an eye on. We'll try to get the latest on that. Make sure you guys are in the Discord too. It's going to be interesting to watch how this works out. But I'd still plan on early enrolling.
So, as soon as Austin gives him a call to do an update, I'm sure we'll know more.
Yeah. Once Austin gives us the recruiting updates on the football side of things, I think that's what's going to fix this team. Once Austin starts getting involved with football recruiting, it's going to fix it.
I don't think it's.
He just doesn't know it yet. He doesn't know it yet, but he is. he's the holy grail of FSU getting back to the elite status is Austin Vesey calling recruits.
Yep, and doing
never gonna happen.
Early National Signing Day. Like, we got to get you on this soon. You're gonna have your own show. You and Nate.
I know. The Nate and Austin show. Imagine that.
I appreciate.
I already had the logo. I already had the logo in my head right now, man.
Oh my! Broken ukuleles and man.
Our first guest can be Devin Travis.
I don't know if it'd work out that well. I don't know if it'd work out that well for y'all. At least for you, Nate. It would be entertaining though. I'm all for content, so I think it'd be great. Let's move into a few more things here before we get into the preview for NC State. Not so great news. Former Knoll, Jameis Winston, was facing the Bucs this past Saturday. This was going to be his revenge game, and I guarantee it, he was about to blow them out of the stadium. Tears his ACL, along with having some damage to his MCL. Nate and I both know about that kind of knee damage BS, and it definitely sucks. But just to see Jameis go down with that, and who was having a great game, and you could tell that he was poised to really actually have a really good game. I thought he was looking solid, and he was making plays where nothing was open and working with targets that no one knows who their names are except for Antonio Callaway. Anyways, Jameis Winston.
First of all,
Marquez Callaway. Antonio Callaway played for Florida.
I'm thinking, yeah, no.
Logan doesn't even know his name.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't even know his name, so that's what I'm
he's
saying.
making plays with Jerry Rice.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Jerry Rice, Hines Ward. I would get that one right because I know for sure he ain't a Steeler. But really, really tough news, and for us to be close with Jameis's camp, and hearing the news, they were definitely really sad. But they did say, they feel really confident that he's going to work his tail off to get back, and that's something I can definitely see. But really, that was really rough to watch.
He's playing well, man. Like, he was running the ball with purpose, man. Like you could tell he was motivated for that game. Weird injury though, like his foot gets caught in turf, and you just see it happen. It sucks. There are a couple of people mentioned that it was a dirty hit. No.
I don't think it's a dirty hit. Nah.
Now Devin White shouldn't have to address that after the game, but he did, talking about how Jameis is one of the first people he heard from after they win the Super Bowl. So it's just part of the game, man. It sucks because he worked his tail off this offseason. It's probably the best shape he's ever been in his career. And they haven't been as dynamic as they were with Drew Brees, but we've talked about it here, is just a lack of playmakers he's had. So he's been able to facilitate an offense and make things happen. But I think that team's going to take a massive step back with Taysom Hill and what's his face? Whoever, I don't even remember his name.
Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, Trevor Siemian. So it sucks, man. It sucks to see that happen.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. It was absolutely a horse collar penalty. I think the odd angle of the tackle, like with him reaching behind Jameis and getting him on like the opposite upper side of the shoulder pad, kind of went into the odd landing, and Jameis's legs getting twisted up there. I mean, it's an unfortunate play. It's football. It happens. For Jameis Winston, I can't think of a time when he really missed a long stretch due to injury. I mean, he's gotten banged up here and there throughout his football career, but never really a serious injury like this. And like you said, Logan, I mean, he's going to attack the rehab process. This is a guy who really does grind. He puts in the work. So I've got no doubt that he's going to put his full focus into that after surgery and, hopefully be able to get back at it, because we got to remember, he's on a 1-year deal right now, going to be a free agent in the offseason. So he's going to need to work his tail off. And if he can't land back with New Orleans, hopefully get an opportunity elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point, Dustin. This was a money year for him.
It's very unfortunate.
He was having a fantastic year statistically, guys. I mean, every week, he was erasing what the bad season that he had before.
Yeah.
And, he was erasing a lot of that, and not a lot of everybody likes to talk about the bad times of Jameis, and Jameis is obviously meme central. Everything. He's one of the most electric players to watch. He's extremely entertaining. He's great for the NFL. I mean, he's fantastic. But the thing about him, didn't get much talk about this season because he's playing damn well, and that's just how it goes. But of course, you get the meme and get him dancing after the game. But I mean, that's just who he is. He already knew what happened. He came out of the 10 and kind of probably knew that was it. The season was over for him. But to see him and how the connection that he has and the teammates that he's already built there, and like that relationship is huge. And Sean Payne saying he was crying coming back into the locker room once he saw Jameis and the air cast and on crutches and everything, just goes to show who Jameis is as a person. And that he's going to work his ass off this offseason, and he's also going to do a lot of stuff off the field too, and what he does for the community. There's so many things that they don't even know what he does for what he's already done for New Orleans and what he's already still doing too for Tampa. But he's played a big vital role in the community side for New Orleans too. So we'll just see how that works. And if Sean Payton wants to be stupid, I mean, he still has me blocked. We made a deal that he was going to unblock me if Jameis started, but still hasn't done that. If he wants to be stupid and let Jameis walk, Thank you. I'll see you in Pittsburgh, Jameis. I'll be at your first game. I'll be the first person to get the jersey too. So
I will say though, Jameis was really proven that he could put those turnover woes behind him. He had 14 touchdowns to 3 picks, so nearly a 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And what was really, honestly, a pretty limited New Orleans offense, and never really felt like they opened up the system for him. You can think back to the Drew Brees days, and they were a high octane passing attack. Whereas this season, they focused a lot more on the running game with having Alvin Kamara, obviously, and the limitations at wide receiver. It felt like in the beginning of that first quarter against Tampa Bay, they were finally starting to turn it up a little bit because they came out on offense. The first play was an empty set, Jameis throwing to 5 wide, and I think they passed their first 4 straight plays or whatever. So, I mean, they were finally going to give him a shot, and then that has to happen. Sucks.
Yeah, and I don't think Sean Payton's gonna I don't think he's gonna move on from Jameis. I think he saw and liked what he got from Jameis this year. And he's just really great for that locker room too. Young, still gonna talented guy. I think he'll be fine. His play style is not also sophisticated on running, rolling around anywhere.
Well, you saw how many big players for New Orleans went over into that blue medical tent to go, say a few words to Jameis and check on him. And
Alvin Kamara being one of them.
Always, Michael Thomas.
Melvin Ingram just got there that week. And, obviously, it's so irritating because Melvin Ingram is really just Mark Ingram, sorry. I'm thinking Melvin Ingram because he just got traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Too many freaking names. I'm just playing games with y'all tonight. I'm just making sure this is all a test.
3.
This is mid-season check. I'm just testing you guys. I can't just
Logan,
sit here.
How
and just
many
let
beers
go
you
by.
had before we started tonight?
Not enough. That's the thing. I've been limiting my beers lately. I do need a Celsius. That's why I always have them here. I can just snatch open one and be good to go. I can go work out at the gym tonight. But yeah, Jameis, that stuff sucks. PJ Williams, though, first of all, I hate Tom Brady. I think a majority of us do. Screw him. But PJ Williams, pick 6 on Tom Brady. Like, this would have just been the perfect day. Man. Would have been the perfect day to watch PJ Williams, Jameis celebrate after the game after obliterating. I think with Jameis staying there, I think they would have obliterated the Bucs. But yeah, PJ Williams, pick 6 on Tom Brady. Not a lot of players get to say that in their career. I bet that ball is already in a glass case somewhere. But shout out to PJ Williams, man. I mean, they moved him into a different kind of role. I think they started that last year, where he's not just a straight up corner guy 2 years ago, but he played well. I mean, he's been playing well the last couple of weeks. Now being able to watch the Saints a little bit more with Jameis being there, and PJ Williams snags the pick 6, man. And it's good to see these guys. I mean, this is a long, lengthy career for Williams, and yeah, the Saints love him.
Yeah, he's going into year 7.
Yeah,
I mean, heck,
with the same organization. Yeah, the same organization.
Darby, Terrence Brooks. They've all been able to sustain.
They have. And then let's talk a little bit of Cam Akers here. Starting to seem like he's getting back. I don't think he's human. I don't know how he's doing this. Austin's shaking his head, not understanding how this is working. But
hasn't even been 4 months since
it's insane.
Achilles tear.
How is this happening?
Because we all made fun of the Clemson backup quarterback for doing it, where he tore his Achilles in the spring game, and we're like, how is he back in August? How is he cleared to play?
Yeah.
Okay, Akers is doing it. Makes no sense because this is usually a year recovery. If you make it back in 10 months, you're lucky. To see it happen with Clemson in 5 months, and now Cam Akers is doing the same thing, it's like, what breakthrough happened with Achilles surgeries lately?
Well, I wonder if it was a complete tear.
I don't know.
I know.
Let me call him real quick.
But those guys are, freaks.
Freaks in nature.
Cook,
he is a freak. Yeah. Dalvin's freak. Cam's freak. And these guys take really good care of their bodies, both physically, diet wise, everything. Like, I actually know exactly what they eat every night. So.
I mean, because everyone said it was a miracle when Adrian Peterson tore his ACL in December and then came back and was ready to play by the next August. But I feel like Achilles is better than an ACL. Yeah, MVP season, 2,000 yards. But I feel like Achilles stuff would bounce back from. They're doing it in 4 or 5 months. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and a couple of days ago, we heard from Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean McVay, and he said that there was cautious optimism that Cam Akers would be able to return if LA was to make a playoff run. And actually, right now, I believe he's running at 80% body weight, 10 miles per hour on the treadmill. I mean, I couldn't even do that right now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No.
I mean,
thank you for admitting that, Dustin, to us. I had some confidence in you, but thank you for admitting it.
That team's all in.
Oh, well, they are now. They grab.
It's what you're supposed to do. When you have a Super Bowl window, you're supposed to explode that door open and go all in. You don't want to be the Vikings.
Is Von Miller still the same Von Miller? Is Von Miller still the same Von Miller, or is
he's good enough? The same player he was 4 years ago, but when we got Aaron Donald next to you, I think it's going to make life a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you got Aaron Donald in the middle, who can create so much havoc, it's going to give him a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
And then you got Ramsey coming in, off the corner,
Hasn't been talked about a ton. He's actually been last few weeks, so he's been killing it, but it's also been kind of quiet starts of the season for him just because he's on lockdown. So let's give a shout out here to Khalil. Thank you for the 5 bomb. We're going to get to these in just a few, Kilo, so just hang on here for just a few more minutes, but we're going to get to those questions. But thank you for the kindly donation. Along with Eric just dropped a 20 bomb. This must be a crazy kind of night. I guess we need more quarterbacks to transfer. I'm just kidding. But 20 bomb from Eric saying, go Knowles. I can't believe they have not announced the Miami TV time next Saturday. Go Knowles, beat Wolfpack Saturday. Eric, you're always in here chatting with us. Definitely appreciate you hopping in here and hanging out with us. Definitely for the kind donation too. So Khalil and Eric, thank you. Let's jump into one last thing here before we get into NC State. Buster Posey, this broke earlier today. I'm a Giants fan. Almost made a pretty good run there this year. Weren't expected to be that good coming into the season, but went on a crazy run. But Buster Posey announces that he'll be announcing tomorrow, but reported today that he's going to be announcing that he's retiring from Major League Baseball, who had an incredible career with the Giants, going 3-time World Series champion, 7 times All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger Award winner, 2 times NL Comeback Player of the Year, National League MVP, National League Rookie of the Year, and National League Hank Aaron Award winner. I mean, and then you look back at his college career too, and what he did playing about every position for FSU baseball. But what a career for Buster Posey. Really more sad to me. I mean, I'm happy for him, but I felt like he could have gone on another run this upcoming season with the Giants, because I think they're going to have a really good season next year. It stinks. I mean, he's all over San Francisco, going over there and visiting. I've been to a few of the games there and getting to see him bat. And, that team, that city loves him to death. And so I'm sure it's going to be quite an emotional day tomorrow in the Bay Area.
Yeah, Buster's awesome. I mean, it's the last time I cared about Florida State baseball, but it was when he was on the team, on those 07, 08 teams. He was just that guy. Just did everything. Super great guy. After every game, he's talking to every fan. He's exactly what you want from your franchise player. And in a city that has Steph Curry, the fact that he's still so highly regarded tells you a lot about him, because both of those guys are just down-to-earth guys that really care about their family, really care about their teams. I'm sure it's going to be tough for him to announce it, but hell of a career. Should be a Hall of Famer, but we'll see.
And had a really good season this year too. Any other comments on Posey?
I don't see how he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think the only thing maybe that would question it is the length of his career, but I don't see how he wouldn't be a first ballot, because he's an all-time great catcher now. I mean, like Logan said, you run down everything about it, run down the profile. He fits everything to a T about what makes him, one of the best. So great career. Like Austin, I don't follow baseball too much, but he's one of the very best that's come out of FSU. So
yeah, represented Florida State very well. And, I mean, talent-wise, it's just incredible. Hall of Famer.
I definitely think he's probably the best FSU baseball player. Who else would you put up there, really?
JD Drew is probably an argument, but Buster definitely had a better pro career.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, oh man. God, I just need one more season. One more season, buddy. Come on. All right. I gotta stop being selfish. I'm happy for you,
Baseball's
Buster.
over, guys. Keep it moving. Baseball season ended yesterday. All right.
Did you watch one game, Dustin, this year?
Yeah.
Oh,
I watched like 3.5 games.
Okay.
One
makes you feel
being
better. I didn't
last
watch a
2
single
innings
pitch.
last night.
I watched 0.
I didn't watch a single pitch all season, and I couldn't have cared less.
Oh, well, hey, Buster, we still love you. We talked about you.
We do love you, Buster.
I love you. I didn't wear my jersey. What am I doing? God, I'm a clown. I'm a complete clown.
You had to wear the No Game Day shirt for the brand.
That is, I don't have enough NG everywhere.
Just as a reminder, we need NG polos and jackets.
We do. I know Dustin needs his polo for the press box. He goes to the press box one time, and now he's got to get.
No,
swag.
I need a jacket.
I got to get him all preppied up.
Clemson's press box is not enclosed, and every 5 minutes a cold breeze would come through, and I'm like, please kill me.
Oh my goodness!
You said their press box isn't enclosed?
No, it's open.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
it was open.
Yeah.
It's like a club level kind of feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was really cool. But like
Yeah.
every 5 minutes, I'm like,
I would like
oh.
that, but not if the weather is like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If it was like mid-September, or no, I would say like late September, it's like 70 degrees, it'd be perfect. But it was high 50s, low 60s, and just cold breeze all day. Like,
Yeah. I know we got some Atlanta Braves fans. There's a lot of Atlanta Braves fans out there. Congratulations to y'all's Atlanta Braves. The Chop, good job at doing that. I don't know. I think it's better than the Chiefs. I think y'all do it. I think they do it better. I think they do it better than the Chiefs, though.
It's
the City Chiefs fans are awful.
It's both bad.
But there's a lot more Knowles in Atlanta than Kansas City, so that may be the reason there for sure. I didn't also know this, but Posey, there's no way he's leaving 22 milli. Is there? I don't know. I don't know all the kind of major. I know the money's insane.
I'm sure he's made enough
money
in his career.
nuts,
Yeah,
so
he's made enough in his career. I'm sure he's not.
He's solidly set there. 22 mils. Woo.
Yeah, he's not clipping
Gracious.
coupons.
I don't think so. I don't believe so at all. Gentlemen, let's get into it real quick. Florida State versus NC State. We'll jump into game preview right now. Florida State is heading into this one trying to get back on a winning streak. On the other hand, NC State kind of went into the season. Did we predict NC State to be this good at the end of the season? I forget. I was thinking I was kind of like 50-50, see what happens in the season.
I think we all.
I didn't predict.
I think we're split. And the ones who said that FSU would win it said it'd be a really competitive, close game.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think I picked a loss for this game.
If we're wrong, just go back and tell us.
And clip it and tag Austin. Yeah, don't tag me.
Why me?
I don't know. You did that.
Why me? Just tag the podcast.
No. Tag Austin. Record right now for the NC State Wolfpack coming into this game in Tallahassee, 6-2. This game will be played at 4 p.m. Back at home for the Noles. Dave Doran, one of your favorite coaches, right?
He leaves.
and now cast. Great. Well, now my computer screen's frozen, so hopefully everybody can still hear me. Yeah, y'all can. But yeah, Nate is gone, so he does not want to talk about Dave Doran. But yeah, the Wolfpack comes in 6-2.
They're a good football
Nate,
team.
your favorite coach?
Man, listen. No. No. He's definitely on the top 5. So, he is
the top 5
of the grade A douches of college football.
Bottom 5.
The grade A douches of college football.
Yes, this guy is
who's 5th?
Next level scumbag.
Who's 5th?
I need to go through the list of 1 to 5 real quick.
I know it's Brian Kelly, Dabo, Doran.
Number 1's Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
that's going to always be forever. Number 2 is Dabo, and
understand.
He is pushing for that top spot for Urban, but Urban's time at Florida, and I'll always have driving across the Howard Franklin Bridge and seeing Urban Meyer and me being able to give him the bird was one of my life highlights. Laying on the horn until he looked over, and I was like, that is one of my life highlights.
What did you say out the window? Would Celsius like it if what we heard, what you said out the window?
No, they would not like it.
We'll keep moving on.
Yeah, number 3 is Walt Bell.
Dang, Walt Bell's really
yeah,
up
I
there.
meant to say Walt Bell.
Wow.
Number 4 is Dave
Walt
Dolan.
Bell above Brian Kelly?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And number 5 is Brian Kelly.
Wow, I'm shocked he's above Brian Kelly.
I mean, Brian Kelly killed a guy, and he's only number 5.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not
I don't know. Something about Walt Bell is just, oozes just, just salt and vinegar.
Imagine hating the coach of the worst team in college football. That's pretty funny.
It's well deserved. Well deserved.
Yikes.
So,
well, I'm glad we got that updated. It kind of switches all throughout the weeks now.
Really
so
it
depends on what.
I really thought it was.
Nah,
if we were playing Notre Dame this week, Brian Kelly would be 3rd.
Probably.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It all depends on the time of year.
Probably.
All depends.
Probably. 3 through 5. 3 through 5 are definitely changeable, but 1 and 2 are locked in for forever.
Yeah.
Dabo's got to be trending up after he called the game against Florida State one of his top 5 wins, right?
Who, Dabo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you hear that comment?
Yeah, I mean, it's just more coach speak.
Is it Cap? Cap? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just more coach.
What do you think it's
from,
Cap?
I can't wait for all the skeletons to come out of his closet like Tiger Woods, man. It's just gonna be messy.
Damn. Shots at Tiger. Where you at, Tiger? We gotta get Tiger on the pod. What is he doing? He's been just keeping us on red, right?
His legs are recovering.
Yep.
Everything's recovering.
Had his 40th
red.
surgery. Something ridiculous, man. That guy's just destroyed his body playing golf.
Well, no, the car accident too.
Yeah, that car accident.
The pills.
Nate, let's just keep on going at you. Corey Durden.
Yeah. Corey Durden
will be back
man.
in Doak Campbell Stadium.
Well,
Corey Durden is having a solid season for NC State.
No, man, screw that guy. What did he say? What did he say on social media?
Gotta get my smack back.
No, I gotta get my lick. I gotta get my lick.
Gotta get my lick.
Which is even stranger.
I gotta get my lick in.
Yeah.
He's gonna go lick Jordan Travis on the ear.
So the last Florida State player that came in at NC State was Brady Hopman, talking all that smack before the game. He got his ass whipped. So
I think he got popped in between Kando and
he did get revenge
and Durden. So Durden leaving this program has been a godsend for FSU. So he can try to get his lick in, but the guy is so soft and quits on so many plays. As soon as he gets beat once, he's gonna put his tail between his leg and cry like a bitch.
Would you lick him first, Nate?
No.
What is that question?
All right.
That is weird, Dustin.
That was weird.
That was weird.
Dustin usually does.
Corey Durden said it. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the lick's got to be like. I got to get my situation. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
I have it like in my brain, but I'm not fully. I don't know if I can just say it.
He's trying to say
he wants to knock someone out.
Yeah, he said.
I don't think.
I got to get my retribution, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, it's like
we'll put it.
Wounds, like
we'll put it in white people language. We'll put it in white people language. He's looking for payback.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, whatever, dude. You're a mid-level player that had a great year because the guy next to you, had 1 year where he played out of his body, and Wilson. So I ain't worried about Corey Durden. There's just other players on that D line that play better players on that defense. So he's part of the whole. He's not a main reason why that team has been pretty good on defense. You look at Briggs before he got hurt. You look at Johnson. You look at Keir Thomas, and just the much better play FSU's defensive line has had since he's left. I think
limited depth.
Yeah, which says you look at Fabian Lovett, who's just played phenomenal. So whatever, man. Go get your lick. Do whatever you got to do, but whatever, man.
Yeah, that was an interesting Instagram post by him, but no one should be shocked because that happened.
I put that in
time
lockers,
at Florida
man.
State.
I put that up in the lockers and be like, "Hey,
right in front of the offensive line." Yep. Yeah,
I'm not worried about
I think
Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen
Yeah, I
is
was
just howdy doody.
Howdy doody.
yeah, you're not intimidated. I'm not intimidated by Dan Mullen.
If he could recruit better, I think it'd be a much bigger problem because the guy is really good at X's and O's. He is a good game day coach, but he's just so awkward and goofy that it's hard to really put him in the top 5 just because he's never going to compete because you can't recruit at an elite level.
Yeah, well, it was the comments on Dan Mullen this week saying that recruiting, we'll take care of that after the season.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about NC State.
Let's talk about their quarterback who knows how to take care of the ball really, really well. I mean, ratio-wise, touchdown to interception, one of the best. Currently 21 touchdowns. Yeah, 21 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Could be rated in 152.4 right now. So just a guy that knows how to take care of the ball. And Florida State, the last couple of weeks, has done a really good job of creating turnovers. And, Florida State is going to want to do this upcoming weekend, but they're going to be facing a quarterback that is smart with the ball.
For me, it comes down to, this is kind of going to be like Clemson light. This is a defensive line that gets after it. They have like 57 quarterback hurries. They have 17 sacks. They're number 7 in the country against the run. If you look at their passing game, they are a little susceptible against the pass. They're 58th. Florida State is better than them, actually. Statistically, if you look at advanced metrics, Florida State's better than them in the passing game, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, Florida State's going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to stop their – I can't pronounce his name. It starts with the E. I can't say it right now. It's out of my brain. But they got 2 really good running backs. They got a good wide receiver. Their offensive line's played really well. The offense has done well for them this year. They have a guy that's in year 3 playing very well offensively. So, the running backs are averaging one's getting 13 carries for 70 a game. The other one's getting 11 for 60. So really solid guys that are, they're averaging about 5.5 yards a carry, I think. So it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle. You talked about Devin Leary a little bit. He's going to be throwing to some receivers, and we talked about Clemson last week having big receivers. NC State's top 3 receivers are all 6 foot or taller, and Emeka Emezi standing at 6'3". He's going to present a formidable matchup for Florida State. Devin Leary probably is going to turn the ball over. He's completing over 66% of his passes. You guys mentioned the 21-2 touchdown to interception ratio. Ricky Person and Zonovan Knight are both solid running backs. Their offensive line hasn't been terrible. They've only given up 12 sacks in 8 games, 1.5 a game. Yeah, it's going to be another test for this FSU defense, which maybe a little banged up after last week. And you look over to the offense, like you said, Nate, Florida State, they're definitely going to have to establish the run, which is something they didn't do last week against Clemson. NC State, I think they're the number 22 rushing defense in the country or something like that. They're only giving up 111 yards on the ground per game. So that's going to be the main matchup again.
Advanced stats, man. When you look at the advanced stats, they've shut down the run game. It's going to be tough, man.
I will say they haven't been.
Go ahead.
A lot better than last week, but they haven't been as good on the road offensively. They're averaging about 11 points or so less per contest on the road than they're scoring at home. So we'll see if maybe that can play into Florida State's favor. But I'm not liking another team who's very strong against the run going up against a banged up Florida State team.
Yeah,
someone just put up that FSU's pass rush to get after it, but they're not even giving up a lot of hurries. They've done a good job of protecting Leary. Part of it is, he gets rid of the ball really, really quickly. But also they've done a good job protecting him. So, they're only giving up a sack a game and not a ton of pressure. So, Jermaine Johnson's going to have to continue to play really well. He's going to have to wreak a ton of havoc. So
that whole D-line.
This isn't coming off last week, where Florida State's banged up. Jordan Travis hasn't necessarily practiced much at all this week, if he has at all. there may be some questions who's going to play quarterback. So, best spot to be in for FSU.
Yeah, I'm wondering too. Got to see Sydney. I mean, this game would be huge for if Sydney Williams could be available this upcoming weekend. I mean, that would have been huge last week, but definitely for this game, this matchup. I mean, it's just these guys are dinged up, and that's why it's a little worrisome heading into this weekend. If Florida State can take care of that quarterback, and Jermaine Johnson is Jermaine Johnson, and he kind of comes in when you need him the most, and he did that against Clemson. But man, you got to see more consistency this upcoming weekend. Teams are just having really good game plans for him, but I think Keir Thomas too, Fabian Lovett, those guys they gotta be in their game on Saturday, or this could get scary because if Florida State's offense isn't able to move, that running game like it was last weekend, you have to rely on the defense. You really have to rely on the defense and maybe making turnovers happen and putting Florida State's offense in a good spot on the field position wise. It's just I don't know. It's such a interesting game, and you've got to love that Florida State has this at home if you're an FSU fan, because if it was the other way around, I think fans would be a lot more nervous about this one. What do you think about the NC State game, Austin? What do you think about it? You said that you did like 2 hours of homework on the game.
I did not.
What do you think about this game?
I did not do 2 hours of homework. It's been a really busy week.
The last thing of football-wise for Austin was going to that Clemson game. After this, it's all transition basketball. To basketball has happened now fully. This man is networking over here to left and right on podcast shows. I mean,
I've been on, I think it's 6 podcasts in the last 8 days, I think is what it is. So we're grinding.
The clout. It's not going to get to your head, though, is it?
No, of course not. What do you think I am? Yeah, there's not much I could say that hasn't been said already. NC State has a really good rush defense. They have a really talented front 4 and front 7. Florida State's going to have to make plays through the air, which means the receivers are going to have to get separation and make plays that we haven't seen them make. And that also means Travis has to put balls in the money, which, it's been hit or miss all year, especially in the bigger games. He hasn't really shown that he can make those big throws. We'll see.
Well, is Travis even going to be out there?
Yeah, that's true too. If he's available to go, but I have very little faith. I broke a ukulele out of faith last week. I have no faith this week.
nothing else that you can break for good luck.
No,
it didn't work out to be good luck.
Yeah, if we won last week, I would have had something this week, but we didn't win. So
another ukulele. You put the ukulele back together.
It's sitting broken everything. Right here. It'll stay there broken forever.
I told him I'd buy him another one. I told him I'd buy now. If they would have won, Amazon shipped one to him. But doesn't seem to be the case. Let's jump into some score predictions. Before we do that, let's show some love to our guys over here, sitting over here. Celsius, our favorite sponsor on the show, along with Hobbit. I mean, Hobbit is also our other favorite, but we got 2 favorites on here. Definitely our favorite drinking brand that we are sponsored by, but by far the best drinks if you're looking for an extra little energy boost. I know we've talked about it quite a bit.
I wouldn't know
because we get a little tired.
I haven't got my samples yet, so I wouldn't know.
Well, if you go to the retail store near you, just like I'll tell the rest of the viewers here, if you go to a retail store near you, you can grab them anywhere. They're almost in like every Publix, so now they're in a lot of gas stations too, but mainly retail places, maybe like a Walmart, but definitely Publix. Some other places, but definitely awesome drinks. I actually had one this morning before practice like usual, and I've also been doing them before gyms. And I'm not a big kind of person of doing the pre-workout stuff because I start feeling like sweaty and all that kind of stuff, and my mind's like racing. These are perfect. A lot more natural fit too. It comes with 7 essential vitamins and not no sugar, none of that crazy stuff in there that makes you kind of feel way too wired going into the gym. But I know a lot of people have been telling me that they take it before the gym or definitely before doing workout, homework, or if they're doing any kinds of things of that nature where your mind's trying to get your mind clicking for the day. Definitely would suggest grabbing one of these Celsius. They have all different kinds of flavors, and they do have a sparkling one. If you got a black top sparkling, this one's flat. So you got 2 different types that you can go with. I'm personally a sparkling kind of guy because I'm sparkling with my personality. Right, Nate?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm just like, that's just how it works. But yeah, definitely go check them out. Celsius, show them a lot of love. Should have a new code for you guys to use too. I know a few of y'all have used it, but we'll have another new code for you guys if you guys are wanting to order them. But awesome drinks, and I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of our viewers and listeners about it. So yeah, love them. Let's jump into some score predictions, gentlemen. Florida State's gonna be facing the NC State Wolfpack on Saturday at 4 p.m. Such a weird time. But in Doak Campbell Stadium, Florida State is hoping to get back on a winning streak, along with trying to fight to make a bowl game. And they don't have a lot of games left in order to do so. How are we feeling, gentlemen? This will be the week before Miami comes into town.
I'll go first since I went last week. Also, make sure you drop your score predictions in the chat. Since Logan didn't say it, I'll say it. Drop your predictions.
Look at that. I love this co-host. Doing a good job.
I have no faith. NC State 33, Florida State 17. No faith.
Whoa.
I think Florida State's a little bit too banged up. The guys dealing with sickness, dealing with the flu. No faith.
Austin's back on his BS.
Corey Durden gets his lick.
Okay. Damn, that's going to piss off Nate. I can't believe he did that. Wow. You're back on that. You're back on that, though, Austin, on that. Just
listen, I was positive
Florida State,
for 1 week. I pulled out my interleague Corso, and look what it brought us: despair and depression. So I'm going back to negativity.
Maybe you do need to stay negative for the rest of the year, and Florida State will do
well. I think that if Travis doesn't play, I think that Florida State's going to struggle. They got to run the ball. I think that this is another, like I said before, it's a style matchup. A team that can shut down the run. Florida State hasn't been able to generate a lot through the air, so I don't know, man. I feel that Dave Doan's a douchebag, so I won't pick him to win. So I'm gonna go Florida State 33, NC State 31.
Wait, say it again. Yeah. Give me another score again.
I said that Dave Doan's a douchebag, and I will not predict him to win. So I got Florida State 33, and then I got NC State 31.
Oh, damn. Okay. Oh, I love it. I knew you wouldn't allow them to get the win.
It can't happen.
Okay, so we're 50-50 right now.
This is a tough spot for Florida State coming into this game. It felt like they were as healthy as they'd been in a while going into that Clemson game, and then an extremely physical game against a tough opponent. You've got some guys banged up. You've got the flu going around. You don't know if you're going to have all of your quarterbacks available. You don't know if you're going to have all of your running backs available. There's been uncertainty at wide receiver all season. You've had a banged up offensive line. There's too many question marks this week for me to feel comfortable with Florida State, because North Carolina State 6-2. They've been extremely solid this year. We talked about their offense. I don't think Devin Leary is going to turn it over much, and their defense does their best work against the run, which is what Florida State is obviously going to want to try and establish. So, I just think it's going to be too tough with all of the question marks. I'm going to go North Carolina State 31, Florida State 17. FSU falls to 3-6. They'll need to win their final 3 games to make it to bowl season.
Ooh, lordy. Yeah, I agree with you on a lot of those points. They're definitely health-wise for Florida State with this bug going around. Norvell even mentioned it. I didn't think you might have mentioned it this week, but let the masses know what to maybe expect this upcoming weekend. I think that meant a lot coming from the head coach, and I don't like that. It just all depends on the quarterback situation in this one. I mean, I just don't see Florida State finding – Florida State's going to have to find a rhythm there running the ball. I mean, that's what has kept this team sustaining drives. And, if Jordan Travis isn't available, blah, 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 some other guys not being available and guys still maybe dealing with sickness, whatever it is, just doesn't seem so well after a really physical game against Clemson where some guys are dinged up. We still want to see if Toafili will be available. I don't think he will be on Saturday after the injury he sustained on the last play. Of course, it's the last play where Clemson scores 6 points along with hurting one of your top who was the best running back for your team on Saturday. I got Florida State losing this one, sadly. And like Dustin said, they're going to have to win out these last ones to make it bowl eligible. I got Florida State losing this one 31-21. 31-21 NC State, sadly.
I got Mackenzie Melton coming in, throwing for 250, being efficient, opens up the offense enough for Florida State to run the ball. And I got Dave Doran leaving Tallahassee with another L. It could be no other way.
No other way.
God, if you're listening.
God, if you're there.
No licks for Durden.
No licks at all. No licks.
Put a towel in his mouth. No licking.
What the?
Dustin,
meet yourself.
Lord.
Let me go ahead and note this down. That time mark, that'll be the opening to the podcast this week. I feel so bad to the podcast listeners, but that's going to be your opening this week. If you don't watch us live on YouTube or anywhere, then this is what you're going to get. That's going to be the opening to the podcast this week. Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump into our 2021-2022 basketball preview.
I'm out, y'all.
Nate, be good. Appreciate you being on here. Don't know if D-Lu, what's your last words?
My prediction for FSU basketball is Elite Eight this year. I think they put it together, make a tournament run. And Hamilton we trust, but I think that the back end of the season, guys like Cleveland, get it together, put some points up, and Florida State makes a run.
I like it. Okay,
so,
positive.
Otherwise, I need this to be the last solid season of basketball for FSU, so I need FSU football to come back to the forefront. So enjoy it, Austin. This is it.
Don't tell Adrian that. Well, Adrian's laughing at us. So he finds it funny, maybe a little bit, but hidden inside, no, he's not liking it.
But no, for real. Like, I don't follow the basketball team as much as Dustin and Austin do, but it should be a solid season. But I'm writing off. Dave Doran can kick rocks. I wish nothing but the worst for him, and I hope he's got a really shitty holiday season.
Damn, Nate, as always, definitely appreciate you on here showing some love to some opponents and their head coaches. Absolutely. Yep. But to join us tonight, one of two, I think we're going to have Aria here in a few, but Adrian Crawford, definitely appreciate you hopping on with us this evening. We're going to be previewing the 2021-2022 season of Florida State basketball. Adrian, this is your first time coming on here, man. Happy to have you.
Well, thank you guys so much. Can you guys hear me? Everybody good?
Yep.
Oh, perfect.
All good on our end. How are things going? Getting prepped for basketball season upcoming. Going to be a busy next couple of months for you, I know.
Yeah, it will be. It's going great. I mean, again, last year was my first year doing radio, and Gene Deckerhoff. Gene's he's an incredible professional, man. So Gene makes it easy for me. I just get up there and just kind of talk about what I see, and Gene does all the hard work. So I'm really excited about it.
Before Aria gets in here in a couple of minutes, what were your thoughts on last year's team? What went well? What didn't go well? What were your overall thoughts on them?
Can you ask that question again? I'm getting a real kind of a little bit of echoes. It literally sounds like there we go. Let's see if we can do it now. Sorry about that.
So what were your overall thoughts on last year's team? Like what went well, what didn't go well? Just your overall thoughts on last year's team, and there he goes.
We lost him. It's just like the Nate thing. We lost like Nate. I think he might be Carr, maybe potentially Carr.
Please in the car. And then Aria says he's going to hop in here in 2 minutes. So
gotcha. Well, what do you want to ask us? What we thought about the team last year, Austin?
I mean,
think we're good enough, like Adrian Crawford.
You can't tweet an article correctly, so no.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'll bring that up. But good timing. Adrian's back with us.
So, all right, there we go. It sounded like the best way I can explain what I was hearing. I feel like I'm hearing somebody when you're trying to disguise somebody's voice.
Nice.
They're a witness.
Oh, come on. That sounds great. You should be able to work with that, though, for the next 30 minutes. Come on.
Oh, my God. All right.
Go ahead.
Let's see if I can do it now. So go ahead. I apologize.
You good. So what were your overall thoughts on last year's team? What went well? What didn't go well?
Yeah, it's really good. I thought last year's team was I thought that, you had all the pieces that were there. I thought that, you saw the emergence of Balsa. I thought Turk was incredible last year. Scotty Barnes, again, the kid's a mutant. You're seeing it in the NBA right now, what I mean? Like, he's not normal. And I think that was, you saw the highlights there. I think the things that was really interesting for me with this group was that they couldn't, as it got closer down the stretch, it just seemed like they couldn't put it always together. I thought Sadar Calhoun had flashes, but then he was like, he had flashes, but then he was atrocious defensively. It's like for every 6 points he would score, he would give up 50. And, so it's like, again, it was just hard watching that. And then, I think it was just, they just didn't, it just never really got there. It just never kind of really turned over. And I thought that they never got that guy off the bench, outside of Scotty, who could really kind of help them push over the top. And so, then it was really hard, man, being in COVID, like trying to find a rhythm. That trying to find the rhythm in seasons just really, really hard. So I think it was just, I thought they did the best they could with what they had.
And it's also tough when you didn't really have a true point guard last year outside of Raekwon Evans. You're trying to break Scott into that role, but with no offseason and very limited practice time, it had to be tough. And I'm sure you were at practices a lot more than I was, but I'm sure it was tough trying to work over those humps.
Yeah, it was, because I think what happened was that, with not having, Raekwon, you saw with Raekwon Evans, he kind of struggled a lot last year. Scotty was this thing. He was kind of just trying to figure out how to be a point, and if he was a point or not. And so you're right, they didn't really have a pure point guard. At times, Turk was maybe, the best at getting him into stuff and things like that. So that was really that was really, really difficult. And I think that that ends up, I do think it hurts you, but I actually will tell you, going into this year, Raekwon Evans has probably been the one so far that I've been most impressed with so far.
That's what I've heard. And you saw that in the exhibition game last week. He had 17 points. If he continues to be confident, that's huge for this team going forward, especially with the way college basketball is nowadays, where they're just so involved with guard play.
Yeah, he's really, I think there's been some things I think personally that's really turned for him. And I watch him but that's what you see from a 5th-year guy too. The level of maturity he has, he's been in the system, and you know how it is when you've been in the system for a certain amount of time, you just know how to get it off. And that's one thing you're seeing from him. Actually, you're seeing a little bit from Wyatt Wilkes. So, I think he's going to have a really, really big year.
I don't know who this Arya guy is, but he just somehow hacked into our StreamYard broadcasting thing here. I don't know who he is. Did you let him in, Austin? Did you let him in? I don't know. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who this guy is. Last time he was eating wings when we were previewing the season last year. This time he's just sitting here smiling.
He's happy as can be because the Braves won a World Series. He doesn't have to watch the game and do this podcast at the same time.
Exactly. I know he would have not been like, I don't know if I can make it this week, Austin. Let's push it back later in the week. But yeah, Arya Masudi, we've had you on here numerous times, and like I said, we previewed the season last year, but definitely appreciate you hopping on here. We got Adrian also. We got some experts in the field right here. Definitely guys that can call games and everything. We're
everyone except
stacked.
me and you.
Yeah, exactly. We're just kind of sitting here. This is where we learn about the season. This is what me and Dustin do every year. This is where we really learn. But Arya, I know Austin was probably going to ask, but really just real quick, your thoughts on the season last year, how it went, your expectations going into it, and then how it ended up being. What were your thoughts on that season last year?
I hear Adrian giggling first off, and I just want to know why he won't pop his video up. I don't understand.
Dude, listen.
Are you like shirtless or something in your house? What's going on?
Dude, listen, the one thing, first of all, if I was shirtless, that's the last thing anybody on God's creation wants to see. That's the first thing. Second thing is, actually trying to get in shape. I'm on campus right now. I'm sitting in my car right now, so I didn't want to come out, and I'd have to do lighting would be bad. Plus, listen, I'm a black dude too, lighting's got to pop to make me look good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep me off camera right now. So.
Oh, man, that's awesome. And I know you guys know this, but Adrian and I have actually called games together doing some men's hoops. So he's a good friend of mine. He's a great guy, and I actually hope to have him and Austin on our podcast hopefully here in the next week or so. So great to be with you guys. I know you asked me a question, and I've gone on a little opening.
Oh, you're good. This is a podcast. This is one thing I think people need to stick to that. This is podcast, not some radio shit. This is where we actually get to have fun, sit back and talk and just have conversations.
No, and I apologize for being late. I was at the women's basketball exhibition, so that's one of the contracts that I have is doing play-by-play for them. So I had to definitely be there to support them. And Austin was right. If the Braves had to go to a Game 7, I would have been terrified to have to explain to Coach Sue why I had to leave at halftime for that one. So thank you, Freddie Freeman and Jorge Soler, for ending it. But man, I'm so excited about Florida State basketball this season. And I think, last season, and Adrian might agree, to me was maybe one of the more impressive years that Coach Bam has put together because of COVID, because he didn't really have the offseason to build the culture that he would have liked. They kind of went on the fly in a lot of different areas. And to still make a second weekend, that to me shows you how far the program for Florida State has come, because not many schools, I mean, you saw Duke had all those 5 stars, and Coach K didn't really have any answers on how to get them to mesh. And yet somehow Coach Hamilton and some of those upperclassmen deserve a lot of credit for leading the way, because you don't just get to make a Sweet 16. People, I think, get frustrated every now and then. They're like, well, when's Florida State going to make a Final Four? But you should appreciate how hard it is to make a Sweet 16, let alone make the NCAA tournament consistently. And FSU's done that. And I thought last year, with all the cancellations, with all the moving parts, with all the different guys that they had have to miss games and whatnot, y'all, I was super excited. I thought Sweet 16 really kind of just highlighted where Florida State basketball is right now, and the New Bloods thing is real. I mean, we're here to stay.
And now you go through an offseason, you lose, I think it's 65% of your scoring. You lose MJ Walker, Scotty Barnes, Raekwon Gray, Balsha Koprivica, Sadar Calhoun. I mean, you lose a lot of guys, but then you replace them with, Caleb Mills coming from Houston, who I think's just an absolute dog. Jalen Worley, Matthew Cleveland, 2 5-stars. Getting Naheem McLeod from JUCO. What do you think about what we've lost versus what we've gained?
Yeah, and what we've lost is huge. You lose 4 of your top 5 scorers, as you guys have mentioned, and I think some of them were surprised, maybe a slight surprise to the staff. Obviously, you can't really prepare for a Balsha Koprivica deciding to take take the game to the next level for him and start the next phase of his career. You can't really prepare for Turk kind of blowing up there in the last 2 months of the season, where he was always someone the NBA liked. And then all of a sudden, what people were dreaming on came to fruition. And so you have to take if you're Raekwon, you had to go, right? Like, that was a great opportunity for him. And then Scotty, man, we're now seeing what that means to be 18 and to be talented, because everyone always kind of scratches their head at Pat and Scotty, and they're like, was he ready? Were they ready to go pro? Well, one, they were definitely ready for multi-million-dollar contracts. The question when you're drafted is not, are you ready right now to step on the court and be an all-star? It's, are you ready to accept multi-years and millions of dollars? And the answer is, if someone's offering, you're taking. And so now we're starting to see with Pat and with Scotty, as they continue to develop, just the superstars that they're going to be in the league. But losing those guys, it's definitely going to hurt. I mean, there's no way around it. But as Austin said, getting a Caleb Mills, that is really important. And it's really a transfer the type of transfer that we really haven't had at Florida State under Leonard Hamilton. You usually don't see the guys who have been stars somewhere else then come to Florida State to kind of pick up where they left off in their career. So I'm really excited about having a guy that I can just count on to go and get a bucket when I need it. Tuck Talk, the podcast that I host with Bob Ferranti, we had Malik on actually for this episode that we're releasing this week. And Malik said Caleb came in right away and he just meshed. And he pointed to how important it was for Caleb to be able to be here in January. And maybe he wasn't able to practice every day, but to kind of take it in and understand what Florida State was about only helped him when he got to the summer and was eligible to start doing some workouts and things like that with the team. So Malik says every day in practice, Caleb can score from all 3 levels, and defensively, he's a really good player. So they're expecting him to replace one of those guys, at least in terms of production. Cleveland and Worley, I think those are 2 guys that everyone's super excited about. But Malik also said keep an eye out for John Butler, because there is a learning curve.
Yeah.
but there are things John Butler does that you can't really teach at 7'1". I mean, he's a 2 guard, essentially playing in a 7-foot man's body. And so they're trying to work with him and Coach Jones to get him some developing post touches and find out a way to kind of make him a nightmare to deal with in his career. And something you got to keep in mind is his ability to pass the balls pretty good for a guy who's 7'1", and he has great angles to be able to pass and then feed the interior blocks. So that's something I'm excited about. But yeah, Cleveland, Worley, Mills, don't sleep on Cameron Fletcher. I think that's someone who can come in and give you some energy. But yeah, I think Austin losing those types of guys is tough. But we've also seen we've lost guys before, and somehow, some way, Coach Ham, Coach Jones see why. I know Dennis is no longer with us, but and Coach Smith now, they find ways to develop somebody in the offseason, and that person takes the next step. So I'm excited, boys. I'm excited to see who that player is. Like, who is the one that in January we're like, oh my God, welcome to the show.
Adrian, we're not running out your AC, are we? In your car, right?
No.
Just making sure Arya's not running out your AC and everything. Just making sure.
No, you're good to go. Arya's the expert, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just over here. I'll let him do all the heavy lifting. I'll just make corner threes, So.
You did that well in your career, though, Adrian. Adrian was a sharpshooter back in his day.
Hey, listen, man. I tell you, the rim is always open. So it's kind of my motto. So, but yeah, I think that with Arya, I mean, I think he laid out those guys. I would tell you this, that with this group this year, I would say Caleb Mills is the one. I've affectionately called Caleb Mills fries at the bottom because his bag is so deep. Like, it is deep. The dude's got I tried to explain to somebody, what's his game like? I'm like, he's got he's got this modern, kind of hood, Euro game. You're watching him play, and it's like Ginobili mixed with just a lot of swag. He sidesteps. He just can get it off at 3 levels. And I would say this, I think he has a chance to be one of the best, go get you a bucket guys we've had here since Tony Douglas. I think he's got that type of ability. Cleveland, Worley, I mean, again, Worley fits the big guard you mantra. The kid was recruited. He's 6'4". He's already, I mean, they recruited him at 6'4". The kid's already grown. He's about 6'6" and a half now. His shoe size has grown. He's just a big guard. Cleveland, I mean, they're really good. And I think John Butler, when we say 2 or 3 years from now, will be a lottery pick. I mean, you just can't teach 7'1". So I think that they're going to have to, I think those guys are going to be really good. And I actually think some of the returning guys, I think Wyatt's really going to help this team this year. As I've been watching him, I think he's really found this niche, and I think he really defensively has learned how to be really adequate on the defensive end. But he just provides veteran leadership, and Anthony Polite's going to be what he is. He's steady Eddie. He's going to guard, and he's going to make shots. So, again, I'm really looking forward to this group.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the returning guys next. You bring back Anthony Polite, who had a huge spike in production last year, goes from 5 points a game to well over 10. You bring back Malik Osborne, you say Polite steady. I think Malik's as steady as Eddie as it gets. 7 points per game, back-to-back seasons, can do everything, play the 4 and the 5. You obviously talked about Wyatt Wilkes, and then we mentioned Raekwon Evans before Arya got on. But Raekwon seemed to make a huge step this offseason. If you get production out of those 4 guys, and of course Tanner Incom as well is going to start at the 5, if you could see an uptick from all 5 of those guys, it really helps the transition along.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that when, what you cannot, those guys are going to have to, especially early, those vets are going to really have to carry stuff because, the way that Florida State guards and the way, it's not everybody just thinks it's just we pick up full court. There's a full system to how we do this. It's a full system of how we pick up and where people have to be to, switching and, again, you guys know, fronting the post and, in our gap coverage, we don't teach it like a lot of people teach it. So these guys are going to have to get used to doing it and playing at that pace. And those veterans are going to have to carry, while those young guys come along. And so I think it's going to be really important. And I also think, one of the most important pieces with this group is really going to be Malik Osborne, because I think that when Malik Osborne's at I think in crunch time, Malik Osborne at our 5 is going to be our best lineup because I think he'll be a nightmare for people because he can guard. I mean, we can switch 1 through 5, and with those other big guards, I think we're going to cause a lot of people problems. And so those guys are really going to have to carry us early.
Yeah, and to Adrian's point, those are gonna be two guys that late in the games too you're gonna look to. I mean, Caleb Mills, I think you can throw into that group too, because Caleb's a newcomer, but he's really not a newcomer to college basketball. And if you play for Kelvin Sampson at Houston, you're a dog. Like you're gonna get gritty, you're gonna play hard, and they're a fun team to always watch in the AAC and the American. But I'm really excited for Anthony Polite, because that Colorado game to me was such a not just an eye-opener, I think, for the fan base, but I think it was an eye-opener for Anthony himself. It's one thing, I mean, Austin and Adrian, you guys have been around the team and the game so long. It's one thing to be told every day that you have it in you. It's another thing to do it in practice. And then in the game, when you start to see what you're capable of, whether it's that first hezzy move that you make attacking the rim that works, whether it's the steal at half court, and you try to have a nasty little pass for an alley-oop that goes the right way. That's confidence. And I think that's something for Anthony, that he's never been an unconfident player, in my opinion, but sometimes he's not willing to kind of stretch his horizons in his first few years in Tallahassee. He kind of knew what he did well, and he stuck to it. But that Colorado game, he was asked to do a little bit more to kind of separate Florida State, and he found success doing it. So I'm really looking forward to Anthony Polite as a ball handler at times when they need it, as a guy who can be a creator, as a guy who's going to be a sharpshooter. I mean, that spot that he hits the 3-point shot from, is it the left corner? Am I right?
Left corner. I think it was like 52%.
You're like, yeah, it's going in. If he lets it fly, it's over from that spot. I just want to see Anthony continue to develop, because I'm not going to compare him to Terrence, man. I don't think that they're the same player. But Terrence was another one of those types of players that, as the years went on, he found success and confidence each and every year in something else. And he's continuing to do that, obviously, with the Clippers. But I really look forward to seeing what Polite does, because he comes from basketball pedigree, too. His dad was a pretty good player in his own right.
So I know you don't want to compare him to Terrence Mann, but you're talking comparisons. I want to bring this up. I was talking with someone close with the team about a week or two ago, and he says this team compares really well to the Elite Eight team. But except you have a scorer in Caleb Mills that team didn't have. But other than that, it's a very similar team. And honestly, I saw it, because you have a whole bunch of dogs defensively. And you got a guy in Malik Osborne who can play the 4 or the 5, much like Fiondu Kabengele did that year. You've got bigs that are going to be great. Maybe not great overall, but they're going to be great shot blockers like Ike Obiagu was that year and Chris Kamaji was that year. You've got versatile wings like Matthew Cleveland, who I'm not saying he's going to be Terrence Mann, but he can play like that. When you line it up person for person, like, this kind of makes sense. So I kind of want to see what y'all's take on that was.
Well, man, listen, let me just start by saying this. I think, let me just say this. The Elite Eight team, the one thing I think is always the factor is this: the great Trent Forrest. Like, the one thing I'll say is this is the dude, him and Terrence Mann, the one thing I always tell people that you cannot, I agree with you lineup for lineup, but with the thing I think those two kids had, they just were winners. And you can't 100%. Teach that. That's the thing I don't know. Like, I think now with Matthew Cleveland, I think Matthew Cleveland has every bit to be in that lens of, like, in that lane of a Terrence Mann, a Trent Forrest, those guys. I mean, he's a kid who works at it. He's a gym rat. He studies it. I mean, by the time he's, whenever that time is, he's going to pop and be who he needs to be. I think that this team I think defensively, I will tell you this. I actually think this team will be better than that team defensively. The team that was the Elite Eight team, they didn't they had the guard. They knew when it was time to turn it on the guard. This team right now, like this team. Yeah, this team right now, like, they actually like the guard, and they can really guard. It's going to take them a minute to get all the system stuff, but they can guard. So the thing I worry about with this group is that winning mentality. When it's go time, Trent, Terrence, those guys went and got it done for you. I wonder, can Caleb Mills do, I think he can go get you a bucket, but can he go win you one the way those two kids can do? That would be my only thing with this group.
Yeah, I mean, and to kind of add on to that, I have a cool story real quick. Over the summer, I was asked to come in and do like a media training session for like the freshmen who were coming in for Knoll Serve, which is like Florida State's. They do a lot for the freshmen that come in. It's like orientation for the athletes. And Matt Cleveland and Jalen Worley were there. And so before our presentation, Chuck Walsh, Florida State's great SID for hoops, was kind of given the overview of what this session was about. And he said, look, I'm trying to make a Final Four. And Matt Cleveland stood up and said, I got you, Chuck. And that to me was like the confidence from that kid in front of the rest of his peers. I mean, it was kids from baseball and obviously basketball, but golf and tennis and just the confidence that he exudes. I kind of see that with Adrian saying that he could be a winner, the kind of kid that rises up big for that moment. Maybe not this year, or maybe late in the season for Matt Cleveland. But I thought y'all would enjoy that because I like the confidence. I want to see him be willing to exert himself, and I think Matt Cleveland will. The comparison I think that's fair for this season's team and that Elite Eight team, I think it's classic Leonard Hamilton, right? Like patience is going to be needed because that team took its lumps. I think this team will be far better in February than it is in November. And I think people need to understand that maybe early on, there's going to be a few matchups. I look at Purdue early on the road where, if it doesn't go Florida State's way, and I'm not writing Florida State off because the Noles have been able to go and get big wins, but there are going to be matchups where Florida State's going to take its lumps. And then there might be moments where you're like, dang, I don't know about this squad. I don't know about this group. But stay with them. Let them continue to develop because it is a team that by February and early March could be peaking like that one did. And that's all that really matters, right? At the end of the day, it's how you're playing when it counts. So I'm excited. I think the parts are there. I agree with you that this might be a team that's some of its parts in terms of it's going to take everyone a little bit here, a little bit there. But maybe Caleb Mills is the difference. And I think, to what Adrian's question was, only time will tell, right? Like that's all that we can do is wait and see until the season comes.
So let's get into a little bit of this non-conference stuff. I feel like it's a lot tougher than you originally think on paper because you start with Penn, who beat Alabama on the road first game of the year 2 years ago. Then you go right at Florida. First weekend of the season, they've got a bunch of scores. Then you play Loyola. There's a couple games that you play Loyola Marymount, who's, I think, really good. They're third in the West Coast Conference last year, same conference Gonzaga's in. There's some sneaky matchups in there, and obviously Purdue's, I think, a Final Four contender. I think they're one of the best teams in the country. But there's some tough games in the non-conference slate. How do you think Florida State slides through it all?
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that early on, I think they're going to take some bumps early. And it's because, when you're trying to, like we said, when you're trying to bring all these new players in, you guys know that it's just hard adjustment. I don't care how talented you are. Matthew Cleveland is not going to he hadn't had to deal with the fact of people scheming very specific for him once you get to game 2 or 3. Or Jalen Worley, or, and even Caleb Mills. I mean, he's had a little bit that first year at Houston. I just think it's good. They're going to take their lumps. And especially, I worry about, especially we talk about a lot of Marymount teams like that, even Penn, when you're playing against a veteran team. On paper, we're more talented, but when, all that comes out the window when you're playing against guys who've got college basketball experience. So I think they're going to take the lumps early. And I agree with Aria, like everybody doesn't need to freak out, I mean, if one thing Leonard Hamilton has taught you, I don't know what it is, but we always call it the magic sorcery of Leonard Hamilton, where this team looks like they're going to be awful, because you really think about it. That team before COVID happened, that team that finished 4th, we almost lost to Western Carolina, and we were all like, this team is terrible. Like, what are they going to do? But they just find a way, because I think it's their culture. So I agree with you. I think they're going to take some lumps early. But as long as, listen, for me right now, as long as we continue to just keep owning Florida, that's all I really care about right now. I mean, I keep saying Mike White, every time we play Florida, Mike White, rent's due. You know what I'm saying? Like, rent is due. So I hope we keep that going.
Yeah, I'm interested in this Penn team because, and Adrian, from your experience, and Austin, maybe you can shed some light on it too. How weird is it to play a team that doesn't have film from the prior season? Like, you're going based off a roster from 2 years ago. And it's game 1 of the year. Like, you've seen nothing from them really. So, like, I don't even know what to expect from Penn I have nightmares of Ivy League teams in Florida State. Like I know what Ivy League teams in Florida State have, the battles that they've had in the past.
Yeah, let me tell you this. I will tell you this. We played Princeton, and I still have nightmares of playing Princeton. I'm telling you what, man, I've never been backdoor. I've never had somebody hit me with a backdoor cut so many times and being in perfect defensive position and them still scoring. It was like awful. So yeah, those Penn teams, because they're going to be super disciplined teams and they're going to run their stuff. And so it is really hard when you can't really scout them. You don't have film. And so that's going to be a really tough matchup.
I kind of get the feeling that, this is going to be total Coach Ham talk, that they're just going to play their game and see what happens. That they're going to have some film on these guys from 2 years ago, but you're not going to expect anything. You're just going to go out there, play your scheme, play your system, and see what happens. And if things have to be adjusted at halftime, I fully trust the staff to be able to adjust to whatever Penn wants to do. Hopefully they're able to just out-athlete them all game as they work through the kinks, especially on offense. I know you guys both alluded to it, but there's going to be times this year where Matthew Cleveland cuts weak side when he's supposed to cut strong side, or someone doesn't roll to the basket hard enough. There's going to be that. I wish it wasn't against, I wish you didn't have to start out with a team that you don't have film on for 2 years and then a solid Florida team immediately after that. I wish you didn't have to start that way, but it's the way the schedule lines up and we'll see what happens.
I tried to dive into their stats from 2 years ago on Ken Palm and just to kind of see some trends. And the one thing that I took away that made me smile a little bit, at least, was that for a Ivy League team, they do like to get up and down the court. They were top 70 in adjusted tempo 2 years ago. So they were about 70 to 71 possessions a game. Whereas, Adrian, that Princeton team wanted to play that thing in the low 60s and high 50s. They were miserable with the way that they were trying to slow the tempo down. But Penn's going to be interesting. And then Florida game 2, I keep telling myself one of these years, it's going to happen. Streaks are meant to end like they are. But until I see it, I'm not picking a Mike White team to beat Florida State. I got to see it. And it just feels like, too, with Mike White's teams, the last couple of years, he keeps having to, bring in a ton of new guys. It's every year, another 4 transfers are going to Florida. I'm like, well, that's nice, but playing them game 2 of the year is going to be awesome. I think that's advantage Florida State. I do think the Gators will be a good team by the end of the year. They've got some studs that they brought in, but game 2, you're not going to see Florida State's length, athleticism, and ball pressure too many times, especially not in practice in the first few weeks into November.
Yeah, so I put this in my schedule preview article on Monday about Florida. They get in 4 really talented guys. You get C.J. Felder from Boston College, Marion Jones from Penn State, Brandon McKissick from Missouri, Kansas City, and Flanders Fleming from Charleston Southern. Those 4 combined for 62 points per game last year. But the only issue is those teams were terrible. Those teams were combined at 29 and 68, 29 and 61. Mm-hmm. Just terrible teams. And then you look at the roster top to bottom, they only have 2 guys above 6'5". Whereas you look at Florida State, they've got 1 scholarship guy shorter than 6'4". I think it's a matchup nightmare for Mike White, and no one knows how to muddle an offense like Mike White. We've seen that year after year where no matter the talent, they have a lot of games early on when they're the 58s, the 62s. You just see that so often. So I'm pretty confident in that game. I kind of expect to be like that Elite 8 year where we kind of go down and just whoop them a little bit. I'm not expecting a 23-point win like that year was, but I wouldn't be surprised if we went down there and won by double digits. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, and Adrian, I'm interested in your thoughts too on Purdue, because that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's not an easy place to play, Mackey Arena. That's a Purdue team that a lot of people are, it's kind of a sexy pick for a Final Four. They're like, oh, that's going to be the team to watch out for in the Big Ten. So I do like that we get, I think, 5 to 6 days of rest and
6
a week
days
of practice before we have to play them, which is a lot better than when we had to go to Assembly Hall and play Indiana on what was it, like a day and a half rest?
1 day, because after the Emerald Coast Classic, they beat Purdue, and then they get 1 day off and have to fly to Indiana.
Yeah. So, Adrian, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Purdue and how Florida State's got to stack up against them?
Yeah, I think here's the deal. I think, when you look at it talent for talent, we match up well. I think when you play that early in the year on the road with young kids, it's going to be a tough matchup. Now, what's really hard is like sometimes with 5 or 6 days prep, Florida State they do a really good job. You guys all know this. They do a phenomenal job at like scouting and getting those guys ready. So I know the kids will be ready, but it's a whole different thing about the coaches getting them ready versus them having to actually go execute, in an environment like that, because, you're playing and, you have Florida or whatever, but playing again as a guy who's from the Midwest, like that's a very difficult place to play basketball in. So I think it's going to match up. I mean, I think it's going to be let me tell you this. If this team can start off early and get that as a win, I will be I'll be really shocked. But that'll speak to, man, if they develop that fast, I think this is going to be a special group if they can. Because again, those are just, you don't matter if you're playing Purdue, you're playing Indiana, anywhere. That's just being from a basketball mecca, man. That's just a tough place to play. And so I think it'll be a very tough matchup. But again, the 5 or 6 days of rest will actually help us, because I think it's just the preparation time they're going to need.
And I think the thing that's slept on with Purdue, Trevion Williams' ability to create for others. I mean, they give him the ball at the perimeter and just let him make plays, whether it's for himself or for others. And he's such a willing passer, which you don't really see out of a guy that's 16, 17 point per game guy. But he's just special. And then when you put him on the bench, you bring in a guy that's 7'4" and Zach Edey, who moves really well for his size. And I mean really well for his size. That I don't know how our bigs are going to do against that. Obviously, we have the length on the perimeter that we can collapse on them, give them extra pressure, give them stunts off the wing. But it's unlike any other matchup they're going to play all year, and arguably in the last few years, because I can't tell you the last time they played a 5-man that can create like Trevion Williams can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. That's you want those tests early. I don't know about you two, or even Dustin and Logan. I feel like I haven't heard from you at all.
Hey, here's the deal. I was just thinking in the back of it, like I just said, I'm taking notes. I'm in class. Like, it just goes to show how uneducated and stupid I am.
We brought you guys on here to do all the talking.
Yeah, we did brought you. Dustin knows way more basketball than I do, but I think he's also said that his Celtics suck and Scotty Barnes just obliterated them. But just a little bittersweet there for him. But I'm learning. I think a lot of the listeners and the viewers are also learning too, because it goes to show how much I don't know about basketball overall. Like, y'all talking about other players and the people that have transferred there. I have a damn name. I don't know a damn name. So I'm learning, Ari. Come on.
Well, here's my question: How excited are you guys for the rematch against UCF? Because I feel like we owe those fools some payback.
Man,
I can't embarrass a sport like that.
Every time I think about that game, I cry a little bit. It was just one of those games where no matter what UCF was throwing up, it doesn't matter if they're in double cut, like they could have been double teamed in the corner. They were just making everything. No matter what Florida State threw at them, they were just making everything. It was a 1 in a million game. And I can't wait for this Orange Bowl matchup to be one of the other 999,000 games, because I think we're going to go down there and embarrass them, hopefully. It's a talented team. Don't get me wrong. UCF's got some talent, especially when you're bringing in that transfer from UNLV that Florida State took a look at. It's a really talented big. Can play the perimeter, guard the perimeter really well. He was Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year for a reason, but I hope we go down there and just kick their ass, because we owe them one. We absolutely owe them one.
Yeah, it was a fluke game. They were hitting everything last year, so I think 20-point or so win should make things feel a little bit better. I'm pretty sure that was the night, random, but I'm pretty sure that was the night I got engaged too. So just
no comment. Absolutely no comment.
That made everything great.
Oh man,
I think it was.
How dare you love somebody? Like, how dare you try to make it better? I mean, Florida State had a win streak, man. What's going on?
Now, FSU doesn't have a game on January 1st, right? They don't ever do that, do they?
Yes,
that's when he's getting married.
They play at NC State.
That's an L. That's an L. I don't know what it is, whatever the matchup looks like, but that's an L.
Dustin, I don't think I could be at your wedding, because Raleigh is an hour and a half.
They actually play on January 1st?
Yeah.
There was not a lot of good. Well, there was decent play. I'm just glad you didn't have a wedding during football season, but you decided to do it during
bowl game season.
Yeah, no, a little odd. So Austin can't even go to your wedding now?
I mean, Raleigh is an hour and a half away from me.
That's his choice, man.
The lead basketball writer, so I mean,
I think Dustin would rather have him go to that than come to his wedding. That's how the world we live in.
We'll save some money.
More food for you, Dustin.
I'll still send a gift.
Oh,
I'll still send a gift. I'm not that kind of douchebag.
What do you get me, a blender or something?
Shake weight.
Treadmill.
I know you ain't spending that much money on me. Ain't gonna be that nice.
We'll see. We'll
Some
see.
shoes?
We're still 2 months out.
How about a pair of shoes?
Sure, shoes.
We don't have anything gray. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Getting back on track a little bit. I want to get your guys' thoughts overall in the ACC before we get into ACC play. Like, who do you think is going to be contenders? Who do you think people are sleeping on? What can we expect?
Go ahead, Aria.
All right, I'll jump in first. Wow, I think the ACC's is up for grabs as it's been, I think, in a couple of years. Duke, I hate to say them first because we're going to be so annoyed at hearing about Duke and Coach K's farewell tour. It's going to be so nauseating by the end.
Jesus.
But they're talented as they always are. They've got 5 stars on their bench and all these McDonald's All-Americans that are walk-ons. And I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's Duke. I do expect them to bounce back. I think they had a weird year last year too, with a kid, quitting on their team essentially in the middle.
And it made the team better. It made no sense.
It just was weird. And then the rest of them just they couldn't really navigate COVID, and it's hard to get that many young players. As Adrian's already touched on, it's hard to get young players to be cohesive. And I think Coach K probably it hurt his program as much as anyone to have that COVID year where they didn't have the time to be able to kind of build their foundations and their principles and instill those. Virginia, I think, will still be a good team. This could be the year that they take a step back, but Tony Bennett to me is like Coach Hamilton, where until I see it, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he'll put together a solid product by the end. A lot of people are high on North Carolina. They think, Coach Davis is putting together a good roster. I think they're talented. Yet again, they've got some really good returners. But yeah, I think Florida State, being picked second to me was not that big of a surprise because there are a lot of question marks. A dark horse for me this season in the ACC. I really like Notre Dame. I know that's actually a lot of other teams like Notre Dame.
I love
but
Notre Dame.
They're old. They have some older players. Mike Bray's an offensive genius. If he can get those older kids to play average defense, that's an NCAA tournament team.
And the thing is, they get their old assistant coach back who used to specialize with their defense. He comes back to Notre Dame. I forget his name off the top of my head, but getting him back is huge. And I think one of the most slept on transfers in the country is Paul Atkinson. I've raved about him on other podcasts. He comes over from Yale, but he's got some of the best footwork I've ever seen from a 7-foot skinny white guy. I mean, kid just destroys in the post. And he's feasted on Ivy League teams, but he played really well against Clemson a couple years ago. I think that team's good, especially if you can improve Prentice Hubb's efficiency a little bit. I really like that Notre Dame team.
Yeah, same. Syracuse is another one that I think could be pretty decent. That's another program that it just seems like they're playing better ball at the end. And if they make an NCAA tournament, it's man, that's going to be a nightmare to have to prepare for, especially if you get them second. Buddy Boeheim and JG3, Joseph Girard. That's a pretty good core, pretty good backcourt there to have. So I like Cuse.
You also get Jimmy Boeheim from Cornell. Now you got 3 Boeheims in that program.
Gosh, there's going to be a fight at some point internally. That Boeheim teams. It just seems like a reality television show waiting to happen. But I like them. And then I actually think Virginia Tech's going to take a step forward too. I think Coach Young is fantastic at what he does. And they started off really hot last year, and they faded. But I kind of like them to at least learn a little bit from their mistakes last year and take a step forward. So those are the teams off the top of my head. I mean, NC State, until they prove to me they're not a middle of the pack ACC team, they're not going to. Georgia Tech, I thought, had a nice season. And I've actually done some work with them in the past, but they lost a lot. They have DeVoe and Usher coming back, which is a good nucleus, but I just don't think that Georgia Tech recruits at that level to be able to kind of keep it going, if that makes sense.
They did get Dallin Coleman, who Florida State loved. I mean, they wanted him badly, but yeah, other than that I don't like the front court. I mean, going from Moses Wright to Rodney Howard is one of the biggest drops off you'll ever see.
and you lost Jose Alvarado, which to me, that's like Trent Forrest, Diet Coke Trent Forrest, in my opinion. Yeah.
Just more annoying.
Adrian likes to use the term keto. So keto Trent Forrest. And my keto is shorter and not as good. But Jose though was kind of like that heartbeat of that program for a few years too. So losing him was big. But yeah, I don't really know much else. I think the usual suspects at the bottom are probably not going to be great. I think Wake still has a huge turnaround ahead of them. BC's probably not going to be heard from. And I'm sure I just listed every team in the ACC, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Man,
I think
I would agree with you. One thing about BC, it's get to a point with BC. Listen, I talk real reckless. It's get to a point with BC. I'm like, man, you're getting to a point where they like, how you're in Europe, you have like the transfer, like like the league. You go down a level. Like, can we like swap them out for like the top team in the SWAC or something? Because I'm like, they're just And then on top of that, I'm like, I like you really go sideways, but then you side with New Balance. Like, I'm like, my kid's coming out, right? And, like, they come. I'm like, my son, I'm like, yeah, you're not going there. I'm sorry. Like, they wear New Balance. Like, I just don't, like, I don't think they're not helping. It's like back in the day when Georgia Tech wore Russell. I'm like, who's signed? You know what I mean? Like, anyway. But I will say this. I do think, going back to what you guys said about Georgia. One thing about Georgia Tech, I will say, I'll start kind of in that level. One thing about Pashner is that he just figures a way. It's annoying. But he just figures a way to keep them around because to his credit, they switch up defenses. He comes with some rando zone that they'll run where, like, you have no idea what they're in. Yeah, it just starts off, he'll start with 4 dudes at the top, and then you're like, what are you running? But somehow he keeps them active, so I think they won't be too bad. But I think at the end of the day, Duke's got a killer. The kid they've got, Apollo, the kid's a killer. And, he is, I've watched him. He's special. So I think they're going to be good. UNC, I don't know because we don't know how Hubert Davis is going to coach. I will say if Hubert Davis coaches the way that it's been, like, I actually feel good about that, the Florida State guy, because that was the issue I've always felt with North Carolina. It was like I felt like they were still playing like in the late 90s, early 2000s. Every time I'd watch them, I'm like, can somebody please get out of the way? You got 2 bigs inside, like, it's, 1997. And I'm like, man, so will they spread the floor? What will they do? I think that's going to be a big thing. But, Syracuse is going to be good. They're going to be tough. I think kind of my sleeper, I agree. I think Virginia Tech's going to be pretty good. I think they're going to actually be really good. And so I worry a little bit about them. But, Ari had a more insight. Ari named every team in ACC. So, and I thought you were about to pull on some SEC schools too. So I'll go ahead and end there.
There's one team I'm surprised you didn't mention, both of you guys, and that's Louisville.
I feel like I was going to say I missed one.
I feel like I'm so high on Louisville, and no one else is. Everyone else is like, they'll be like 6th. I think that team just has so many scores.
Fritz Mack is like Mike White ACC version. Like, dude, they're so.
The thing is, Mack is suspended for the first 6 games of the season, so they might get off to a rocky start. And there's a lot of pressure there right now. So if they do get off to a rocky start, I think they're talented, but who knows? Who really knows? Yeah. I think Florida State's still so wound up from that Xavier game in 2017 that they want to own it to Chris Mike every time. And the fact that they get the record-breaking game at home against Louisville, that place is going to be a lot of fun.
I will say this about Chris Mack. The one thing I think Chris Mack really can coach basketball. But what I really struggle with Chris Mack is when, like, there comes a point in time where you just can't keep being your players are just soft. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like the old school coaches, like, kind of default thing. Our guys aren't tough enough. I'm like, well, maybe, or, whatever it may be. But I think I agree with, I think he can coach. But I mean, again, I think the guy can really coach basketball. And every time I watch him, but, like you said, Florida State just has, for whatever reason, man, they have his number. After what happened to Xavier, that 1 year now, it's just like, I feel like he can't do anything, with what Florida State does. But I do think they're going to, he's always going to have his team in the game because it's how he can coach.
Yeah, but like his teams at Xavier were tough, man. JP Makura and like blew it.
I hate that guy.
They're annoying. They were annoying, but they played on their shoulders. But JP Makura, if he was on your team, if JP Makura was Wyatt Wilkes, you guys would be like, oh, dude, this is that guy. He is that dude. You know what I mean?
The thing I hated most about Mikura, and this is the most petty thing to be annoyed about, the little flick he does at the end of his shot. Oh my God, it drove me insane because he hit that one shot with Brandon Allen in the 2018 game. I'm like, I hate this kid. I could not stand him. But go on to your point.
You feel that way. Let me say
ahead,
this. The way you feel about him, the way I feel about Alvarado. Like, dude, let me tell you this right now. Like, let me tell you right now. Last year, like, I mean, there's very few college players I don't like. That kid, I mean, he would play, and I'm just like, I mean, it was just annoying watching it the entire time, you know. And so, I mean, he was my least favorite. He's been one of my least favorite players I've in a long time in college basketball. But anyway, sorry.
That's like first team all punchable face or whatever you want to call it. All punchable face game right there. Is that trio right there?
So once we get into ACC play a little bit, January's you get some games at home. You get Louisville, you get Duke at home, but then February you have that brutal stretch at Duke, home against Clemson, at Carolina, home against Clemson, at Duke, at Virginia. What do we think this team's going to be looking at come late February?
I think, first of all, I think there's somebody in the ACC office who just doesn't like Florida State because it's like every other year we have like some brutal thing, you know what I mean, where we have to run. I think it's this. I think Duke's gonna be. I mean, I think when we get to that point, we're gonna see what this team's really having that run at that part of the year. I think will be actually really good for us because it's gonna see what you got. And I think if that group can come out of there somehow, you know, which again, if that group comes out of there 3 and 4, something like that, I think you're looking at an incredibly special group. You know, I think if they split during that time, you're still looking at a pretty good group. But I think it's at a really good time because, again, you know, you've had December, and you guys know you got that December break where you got, like, that practice time. You know, you get the – and I think you start making that ACC run. So I think it's a good time frame for them.
Yeah, 100% agree. You know, I think a lot of times in the ACC, it's about, you know, you liken it to a heavyweight boxing match. It's sometimes you just got to take some licks, but you got to manage the middle of the round and just kind of get, you know, to a point where you have your opponent weaker. And in this case, your opponent's the schedule, right? And you've kind of worn every team's worn down at the end. And if you could just manage, I always like to go and like you do, Austin, is break them down into pods, right? This 3, these 4, these 2. And I'm always like, hey, if you can take 2 or 3 right here, if you can take a split right here, if you can win, all right, you might lose 2 out of 3 here. But if on the back end, when you have 3 straight home games, if you can find a way to take care of business in Tallahassee 3 times in a row, in the end of a massive ACC schedule, you know, you're going to be in a pretty good spot and you're going to be knocking on the door at the end to win it. I do think this team will play with a chip on its shoulder. I think they'll remember last year. They kind of let the ACC regular season slip away from them at the end. So I just
not just regular season. Let's be honest. They should have had that title game.
Both. You're right. But I do think this team will remember. And I think as we alluded to earlier in the show, Osborne and Polite are going to have to be catalysts.
And then we get to the tournament. But before we end this podcast, I was running a little bit short on time. What is your expectation? Is this another Sweet 16 team? What are we thinking as far as the tournament?
Yeah, I think this group is – I actually think this group is either they're going to be second round Sweet 16 team. I actually personally believe this team's 1 year away. I think that – this is going to be an important year. I still think, you know, again, if you look back on it, I think everybody's going to have to be remember, you know, the dark time of Florida State basketball. We never thought we'd be at this place now where we're, you know, hey, a second round or Sweet 16, you know, we're kind of a little bit like, disappointed. But I think that's going to be this group this year because I actually think next year, you know, you get a majority of those guys back, those young guys with the group they got coming in. I think you're going to have a super special group. You know, I think next year's group, you could have a Final Four level team next year if everybody comes back. I think with the guys they're adding, and, you know, Coach Ham's always going to pull somebody from somewhere we've never heard of. he's got a 7-footer, somewhere, and
get ready for Boutia from Morocco. He's coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My man's got the Congo connect, already on speed dial always. So it's like, some 7-footer from somewhere coming. So, but I think to answer your question, I think we'll be a Sweet 16 second round, Sweet 16 team.
Yeah, for me, it's hard because the NCAA tournament is an animal of its own, right? Like that whole thing, so much of it is about matchups. So much of it is about just who you play and how, like I said, how you match up statistically and stylistically against some of those teams. So I don't know if I'll give a round prediction. That's really hard without knowing who they're playing. But I will say, like, seed line, I think this is probably a 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed type of team. And so whether they move on to the second round, or the Sweet 16, I think will depend on if they're a 5 seed, who's your 12, right? Are you going to get just a miserable matchup as a 12 seed? If you're a 6 seed, can you upset, the 3 seed in the second round or however it may be, however you want to dice it up. So I think this is probably a 5 or 6 seed with a 4 seed ceiling type of team. But I think we can make a Sweet 16. I think we could make an Elite 8. But I'm not as confident as just saying, this is a Final Four caliber team without having seen the season play out first. So that's my answer. 5 seed, 6 seed, and wherever the cards fall, let them, and we'll see how it goes.
Logan, I believe it's your chance to take us to the outro.
I'm going to take us to the end. Are we not doing record prediction kind of dealios?
I feel like
harder to do that in basketball.
Yeah.
I think
we played around with it last year a little bit.
We could do 20. I think we'll win 20 games. Like I do think this team wins north of 20 games again, and I do think they win. I do think they finish top 4 in the ACC, and I feel confident in those statements.
Yeah,
perfect.
I couldn't. I mean, yeah, I would agree with the same thing. I think another 20+ win season. I actually think this group, if they can stay dialed in, I actually think this could be a team that could get to, they could get to another ACC championship game, because I think they're just going to be they're going to be good defensively. And whenever you can guard, that always keeps you in the game. And I think if this group really buys in, I think they're going to be really good defensively. So I can see this group 20+ games and potentially getting to the ACC championship again.
So here's what I'll say. I'm still going through my schedule previews. We're doing a month every day this week. The way the schedule sets up in late December, early January, I just love the way that sets up for Florida State because all your tough games are at home. You get Syracuse at home, Louisville at home, Duke at home. And then all of your road games are teams that we don't expect to be good. You're at Boston College, at NC State, at Wake Forest, at Miami. It's like these teams you don't expect to be great. So you get a chance to build some road confidence for a really young and inexperienced team that's not used to playing, ACC level competition. They get to gain some confidence before you get to that stretch in late February. I'm a little bit higher. I think to me the floor is 23, 24 wins. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in that 25, 26 win category if everything clicks when it's supposed to. Obviously, I'm not going to come out and expect it, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if everything starts clicking. The young guys are learning the system faster than they're supposed to. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get to that level. And I think there'll be a second weekend team, but like Arya said, until you get matchups, you never know. You really never know. You could come out against a Liberty team 2 years ago who they're only going to play 50 possessions and just absolutely grind out every single possession. So we'll see. But I really have high expectations for this team. If you get one of Bosch or Raekwon Gray back for this year, you're looking at a team that could have been a Final Four team. But I still think it's a very talented team, and I think it's a very guard-heavy team, which bodes well for college basketball.
Well, I think this was a fantastic preview, a good 45 minutes or so, even more, previewing this upcoming season. I want to thank Dustin. Yeah, I want to thank Dustin Lewis and Logan Robinson for carrying this whole conversation on previewing this season.
We're glad to be here. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, but no, seriously, though, thank you, Arya, for hopping on here along with Adrian. This has been awesome. Both of y'all did a fantastic job, along with Austin, too. I think this was by far the most educational season preview I think anybody can have heading into this upcoming season, and we'll be looking forward to having Austin linking up with you too, Arya, on y'all's show. And this was awesome. I mean, it's everything that we wanted more. And so I definitely appreciate you. Help me. I was able to take notes and everything. I was sitting here in class listening because I was clueless on some things basketball related. But to you guys, where can we find you guys on socials too? And shout out the pods, everything, radio, everything.
Yeah, you can just find me on Twitter, Adrian Crawford, on Instagram, it was at Adrian Crawford 5. Probably we'll be dropping. I'll let you guys know. Probably gonna be dropping a pod coming out soon. So I'll be letting you guys. I can let you guys know more about that. But if you need to know anything about Adrian Crawford 5 Instagram, I spend a lot of time on there, or Adrian Crawford on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on both as well. Twitter at Arya Masudi, on Instagram Arya_Masudi. Love to connect with fans anytime that I can. And yeah, you can catch me if you love women's basketball. I'm the play-by-play guy there, and we have our own podcast.
Ahead.
Yeah, they're top 20 team too. So Coach Stu's got them ready to rock. But
it's good to have her back.
No kidding. They won 91-40 something tonight in the exhibition. So they're looking good. They've got
really
a lot of
close game.
Yeah, they're different from the men in that they have a lot of familiar faces that have returned. So that always bodes well for any team. Experience wins in college basketball. So we're excited about that. The Osceola, if you don't visit that site, they do a great job over there covering both basketball, football, baseball, and Tuck Talk is our podcast that I hope to have Austin on, and Adrian as well. So I'm excited. I appreciate you guys having me, and I just want to also say congratulations to the Noel Game Day website and the content moving over to Sports Illustrated is big time. And I know how hard all of you have worked over the last few years and all the challenges that you guys have had to overcome to kind of get to where you guys have. So big congratulations to you guys. Keep up the good work, and hope to continue to be allowed back on your shows and to keep partnering with you guys.
We'll think if you can come back on. We'll think about it. We'll figure it out over a drink at Township or something. But thank you, Arya, for the kind words. Definitely means a lot, and it's been nice for you to have your support too the last couple of years. It's been getting to know you too as a friend has been awesome. So thanks guys to everyone listening. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, all that kind of nature. We're gonna hop off of here. Enjoy 2.5 hour podcast. Ooh, Lordy help me. We gotta go to sleep. I gotta make dinner. Bye y'all. Have a great weekend.
Not the silk word, 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me, not the silk word, 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me, not the silk word.